Welcome to Inner Peace, Better Health. I'm your host Eric, and today we have an extraordinary guest, Pooja Bakhai. Pooja is an authenticity coach, writer, and intuitive healer known for creating lasting positive change in her clients and students. Her journey from curing stage 4 cancer to supporting others in living fearlessly and authentically is truly inspiring. Pooja is the founder of PB Life Design, a mission driven company that helps leaders and professionals create deeply fulfilling lives. She combines ancient spirituality with modern wisdom to teach others how to live boldly. So, today we are exploring the fascinating topic of how to converse with your higher self or God. So, let's dive in. So, Pooja, we are really excited to have you on our show. You are so welcome to the show, and it's an absolute honor to have you here.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
So, Pooja, can you start by explaining what it means to converse with your higher self or gods?
Well, it's so interesting because it really is a such a big and deep question. And I tell my clients, I tell anyone I converse with, that it's a deeply personal question, that our relationship with God or spirit or the great mystery or our higher selves, it's so it is so deeply personal. And for me, it's something that I had to really discover through my own experiences in life, through my own journey. Yeah. So, when it comes to like, what does it mean to talk to God or to converse with God? I think the first thing is like, it's a felt experience. It's not something that we can necessarily, like, if I looked at you right now, it's like, would I know if you're talking to God or not? Maybe, maybe, but I think it's a really felt, it's something that we feel. And um, I think beyond that,
Mm-hmm.
I would say that it's an energy that comes from the energy of love. That
Yeah.
there's so many different energies out there, and there are some really powerful forces. But when it comes to God and when it comes to our higher self, we use the word higher because I think the frequency of that energy, it comes from love.
Yeah.
So then when we say, what does it mean when we talk to this energy? I think it just means communicating with this loving force, with this loving energy, and being open and willing to listen to what comes through.
Yeah, yeah. So, so Pooja, personally, as for me, I am a Christian and I can totally
Mm,
resonate with what you are trying to say because this tuning in to the frequency of God, and it's like tuning in with the frequency of your higher self, which is some sort of energy that 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 is just there, and out of it comes love. So
mm.
I can really resonate with with this, because even I was so excited for this topic because I personally do it all the time. Like, I just like you mentioned that we are seeing each other and we're looking at each other, and you don't know whether I am talking to God or not. And there can be times I might be or I might not, but you just don't know. So it's correct me if I'm wrong, but it's actually more than a feeling, but it's the truth that okay, this is there. It's there, and it's more than actually we can wrap the words around.
I love that. Like a truth, a universal truth, or um, if it's too big to call it universal or too proud to call it universal, in humility, it would be just like a truth that we can embody, we can experience.
Yeah,
I love
yeah.
that. Thank you for
So,
sharing your experience.
so Pooja, how did you first discover this ability in your own life?
Honestly, it's so interesting because I believe that we're born with this ability, that we come into the world sort of as an extension of this energy and to learn how to embody it.
Yeah.
Um, but I think for me and my journey, I really for I think a lot of different reasons, this connection to God became repressed or suppressed early on in my life. And it's interesting because I grew up in a Hindu and Jain house, but I think because of the childhood trauma, and I haven't fully thought through this piece, but perhaps because of the childhood trauma I went through, I maybe lost the connection somewhere.
Yeah.
Um, or maybe it wasn't safe for me to experience it. And then
Mm.
it wasn't really until I was 29 and I was studying in a PhD program at Harvard, which was a dream of mine at the time,
Yeah.
um, when I was diagnosed with terminal cancer. And I love that we're trying to talk about something that it's so can be so challenging to put into words because
Yeah.
there are elements of this that I don't think I can or should necessarily be put into words. But as I try to put it into words, it's like, yeah, something about that experience of just being so close to death
Yeah.
maybe reminded me how to that there were unseen forces at play, that there was an energy that connected me to you, to the stranger, to the people who have already died, to the people who are yet to come, to our ancestors, to the stars, and to beyond. And honestly, who knows? It could have been something that just felt comforting to me at the time. It could have been a physical thing, because I know when we die, and I wasn't necessarily like on my last breath, but it was very much closer to death than I had ever experienced, and most people probably ever will experience.
Yeah.
It could have been something physical, something released within our bodies that sort of allows us to expand our consciousness so that we can really connect with these unseen forces. And so, yeah, that's how I started. I just started honestly hearing
Yeah.
voices, having visions, and I started to talk to these loving
Yeah.
forces because they had some really important messages for me about what was going on with my health and what I needed to do in my life
Mm.
to really walk this path with more love for myself and more love for the truth that I hold and that I'm here to share. So yeah, it was really my cancer journey that opened me up to the possibility of this, what I feel is a vulnerable connection, right?
Yeah.
With God. And yeah, it got me out of my head into my heart and into my spirit. And so for that, I'm so grateful.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much, Pooja, for being so vulnerable. And our listeners and us, we are so proud of you for the person that you have become. And
Thank you.
yeah. So, many people struggle with the concept of connecting to their higher self. What are some common barriers and how can they be overcome?
Well, I think in the most simplified way, um, in coaching, there's a field of, I would call it science. Some people call it pseudoscience, but whatever it is, it's a field of knowledge, and it's called neurolinguistic programming or NLP. And in that world and in the coaching world more broadly, we work a lot on limiting beliefs and expansive beliefs. So beliefs that feel limiting to our reality, to where we want to go, to walking our most authentic
Yeah.
path, and beliefs that feel like they really serve us, that they encourage us, they support us, they give us hope that what we dream of is truly possible. And within each category of beliefs, there's sort of a voice in our heads that can share the limiting beliefs. We call it the inner critic. And
Yeah.
then there's the other voice that's like, Um, the one that I spoke about that's more encouraging, more supportive, more compassionate, and um, you can call it the inner guardian. And so I think
Yeah.
in the most basic terms, like the higher self can come through that inner guardian, that person within you, because we're all made up of different parts and different parts of us, right? That come alive at different times. Um,
Yeah.
and so that inner guardian is oftentimes, connected, to the higher self. And if we're having trouble even conceiving of a God or conceiving of um, a greater guiding force, then I think even in our earthly realities, we can still connect with the energy of the higher self because it's the voice that that speaks from love, that speaks from compassion, that speaks from
Yeah,
wisdom,
you're
from
right.
experience, right?
Mm. Yeah, yeah.
And it's always there, and I don't know about you, but I think a lot of people do actually talk to themselves out loud. And
Yeah, of course. I do that.
yeah, right. And I
Even
feel
it's
like,
embarrassing to admit, but I do that all the time.
well, I actually recommend it to my clients because and I ask them, what is it like when you talk out loud? Who are you talking to? How does it go? Because it's the more we can do this, we can actually, instead of these voices living in our heads, we can bring them out of our heads
Yeah.
into the spaciousness that is the world, or maybe we're out in nature. And this is how we can get that wisdom to flow through. And
Yeah.
sometimes when we talk out loud, we might be expressing, frustrations or complaints or fears, but that's not a bad thing either because what that does is that then activates that
Mm.
the other side of the dark and then the light, and it activates the light and then invites the light part of you to say, hey, well, you know
Yeah.
that might not be true. That might not be true. There might be a different way, or it's okay that you're scared. You can still do this, and
Yeah.
all of that. So, yeah.
Wow. 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 That's so amazing. So, are there any specific practices or exercises that can help break down these barriers? Like some things that can help us or help our listeners who are struggling in connecting or talking to their higher self. Are there any specific practices that they can implement in their lives so that they can get help in the facilitation of conversing with the higher self can be made?
Mm. Well, there's two things that come to mind. And,
Okay.
I feel like in general, with when it comes to tools, there's so many different tools available these days. Your podcast has so many examples of
Yeah.
them, right? From meditation to dance to fields that I've never even heard of to breath work and gosh, there's so many prayer and music and song and all of these things, and earth, just the simplicity of just, sitting by the fire, going out and sitting next to a tree. There's so many tools out there. And
Yeah.
I think when it comes to tools, the thing that I like to remind everyone of, including myself, is just which tool do we need in this moment of struggle or this moment of it's difficult for me to connect. I feel disconnected. Okay, well, what tool seems the easiest for you to do right now?
Yeah.
Because sometimes, like when we're feeling disconnected, sometimes it can be really hard um, to bring ourselves out of that, especially if we're alone or we feel alone and we don't have necessarily a friend who's maybe living with us or a partner or an animal companion or a grandparent to say, hey, Pooja, I can help you. We can go for a walk together. Let's take a yoga class or, you know,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
sometimes we're just alone or we feel alone. It's funny to talk about being alone when we're talking about God, but sometimes we feel alone. And I think in those moments, just choosing something that feels easeful and that will actually feel good for you.
Yeah.
A tool like the ones I mentioned. And I mean, there's so many. But for me, it's just basics. It's really just basic stuff. Like, if I've been indoors all day and I'm feeling disconnected, taking a deep breath of fresh air and just going outside and
Yeah.
listening to the birds. Because I think that medicine in nature, it's something that humans have been connecting with for since our existence. I mean, since we came to this earth, and it's something that has really been lost, especially for a lot of people who like might be living in cities or in places where like a lot of the trees are cut down and there's like concrete
Yeah.
jungles. Um, it's really easy to feel like lost from the oneness of like our relationship, like our body and our
Mhm.
spirit with the body and the spirit of the land that we come from. It's like our home. And so I think one of the simplest things like it's just and despite the fact that we have these cities with concrete jungles, like even cities have trees. Even cities have birds. So we can go and we can just listen and see what happens. Notice our breath and really
Yeah.
slowing things down. I think even when I talk about this topic, I like to slow it down because yeah, it helps to become more mindful now when we're feeling disconnected. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. No, I really resonate with so many of the things that you are saying, because, and the point that you mentioned that nature is the best medicine. I really believe it's so true, and I really relate to it. And
Mm,
yeah, but another thing that I would want to ask you, and I'm really
okay.
really eager to know this, is how can someone differentiate between their own thoughts and guidance from their higher self?
Mm. Well, can I ask you to share a little? I mean, I know this is I'm in the interview and I will share my
Yeah,
perspective,
yeah,
but I'm just curious if you how you do it.
yeah.
You're like, wait, I didn't sign up for this.
No, I did not see that coming, but I answer uh, questions like these all the time, so why not? I'm ready all the time for all of this.
Good.
So yeah, so how do I do it? So okay, so my biggest indicator of recognizing, okay, I'll use the term God. Okay, I know we are, for the sake of this podcast, we are using higher self, but since I have been asked this question,
Mm,
I use the word God. So
mm,
to recognize God's voice, I align it with what it says in the Bible. So
mm,
if there's a thought that I recognize and I'm puzzled about, oh, if this is something that God is trying to tell me, then
mm.
the easiest indicator would be to see it from His Word, the Holy Bible.
Oh,
Yeah, that's how I do it.
oh.
And so many times it has happened. Um, in the Bible, it says that this Satan, or the enemy in this sense, is a master deceiver. He hides like a roaring lion, and he's in search of all the believers. And if one believer is out of the herd, that is the community of church, that's gonna be his prey. So what I see, like there's a thought which in my carnal mind I would think, okay, this might be from God, but just like it says that every opportunity is not from God. So whenever I think that this is something from God, and I have stepped and I have walked into that thought thinking that it's a thought from God, there have been so many times that I have fallen. So
Mhm.
as for me personally, yeah, as for me
Yeah.
personally, I align it with what it says in the Bible. So,
Mm,
because I believe, and there are so many people out there who believe that whenever God speaks to you about something, it is always going to be aligned with what He says in the Word. So,
mm.
that's how I do it.
So interesting. Thank you so
Yeah,
much for sharing that. I asked because it sort of grounds me to hear like other people's experience too, and it helps me also
yeah,
like it's first of all, it's just interesting. So thank you so much for sharing. And
Yeah.
because it's such an intimate thing, I think it's like nice for listeners also to hear different perspectives on this. Because it's really a personal thing of like how do you differentiate? But I like what you said about making mistakes, like you have fallen, because I feel like the differentiation or what I call discernment, it
Yes.
takes a lot of time and a lot of practice. And I think it's something that we'll all be always learning. Um, and so it's for me personally, I'm a very feelings and body based person because for me the
Yeah.
frequency of nature is or natural law is aligned with God and also aligned with the body because the body is also earth. It's also nature. And
Mm.
so and I know for me personally, my body, like with my cancer journey, it speaks to me. It always does. Whether it's something big like cancer
Yeah.
or something small like neck tension, whatever it is. Um, I learned early on in my spiritual journey, I just started to learn what expansion felt like in my body and what fear or like contraction felt. Because to me, fear is like the opposite of love.
Yeah.
And so
Definitely.
to understand and be able to sense, it's more like an animal, but like be able to sense when there's their expansion and when is their contraction helps me is one of the first things I noticed, like when there's a voice or a message or even a thought. Um, yeah. But it's not easy and it's not easy. And I think, our willingness to learn and our willingness to be wrong and to mess up and to learn from our
Yeah.
mistakes, that might be like the biggest helper in this
Yeah.
journey of like discernment.
I also
Um,
believe that
yeah,
it's a skill that you practice,
exactly.
just like you practice. So I am these days. You won't believe it, but I realized that I have been waking up every morning since the last 2 years, and I've been making my coffee wrong.
What do you
Can
mean?
you believe that?
What do you
Can you
mean?
believe that? Okay, so I recently learned that it's not okay to boil water and put coffee in it. So it's put, yeah. So it's put into hot water. So just like that, it's a skill that we practice, and just
It's so funny.
so yeah, it is very funny and embarrassing too. So so just like that skill that I've been learning every morning, waking up and trying to get my coffee right. So yeah,
For
it's like
sure.
that. It's a discernment is a skill, I believe, and the more you get it right, the more you learn about it, and the more you would know for the next time. Okay, this is what happened
Exactly.
last time, and I won't make that mistake again. Okay, this is what happened this time, and I know it is right, so I know what and how to act the next time it happens. So I really
Exactly.
believe it's a skill.
Exactly. And, it kind of connects to like what we were talking about earlier with slowing down and becoming more just mindful of like
Yeah.
what actions we're taking. So that way we can notice when we take a certain action or have a certain thought and we can connect it and actually understand, oh, that maybe wasn't what was best for me or what's in the best good for, for me and for all. So, I'll try it, this other way next time. But if we're not taking the time to slow down, if we're not taking the time to be aware of what we're doing, then it's harder to know when we mess up, and we might find ourselves making the same mistakes or stuck in the same patterns in those situations, Um, but but yeah, and I also just thought about the last thing connected to this last piece of discernment and like making mistakes is like forgiveness, right? And just like forgiving ourselves. The coffee example was kind of like a cute example, but like sometimes that coffee is like someone's life, or um, or it's a stranger on the street, or it's you know, it's something that really has an impact beyond just ourselves, or sometimes it's our own selves. We hurt our own selves, and so just being open to, you know, having that compassion for ourselves, and just being like, it's all right, but next time, like we're gonna do it better, and
Yeah,
with more integrity. Yeah.
yeah. Wow. Amazing, amazing. Well, thank you so much, Pooja, for sharing your wisdom and experiences with us today. Your insights into talking with your higher self are really valuable, and I personally really enjoyed this conversation, and I completely resonated with what you were saying. So I really, really enjoyed this conversation, and yeah, if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your friends. Stay tuned for more inspiring conversations on inner peace, better health. Until next time, keep exploring and stay mindful.